Okay, so today I want to go over the biggest mistakes that you're making in the gym. Let's get into it. So the first three that I have, I'm going to kind of go through together because they all kind of like coincide. So the first three is form, having short reps, and lifting too heavy. And the reason these all coincide is because a lot of them can be caused by each other. So like if you're lifting too heavy, so this is like 40 pounds on here. I could definitely curl more than this, but just for context, like if this was too heavy, my reps would probably look something like this. And you see how like my entire body is moving into it? Whereas like a good clean rep would look like this. Slow, controlled. If I give you guys like the side profile, you can see my elbows at my side, stays there, down, and it's easy. Like that's a good controlled rep. So for starters, you just want to lift with good form in the gym. One, for the aspect of, you saw those first couple reps, I was throwing the body around, right? Like there's a good chance you're gonna get hurt if you're doing it. And if you're hurt, you can't lift. So you never want to do that. In addition with that, with form, like it also will just allow you to target the muscle you're actually trying to train better. Because a lot of times with a bicep curl, not as much, but with other exercises, if you're doing it wrong, you're like entirely targeting the wrong muscle. You're just training the wrong muscle. And there's no, like you're just not gonna see a lot of progress if you're literally hitting the wrong muscle. You're not gonna see growth in your back when you're primarily using your biceps for an exercise, right? You might see some growth still because you're still engaging the exercise, or I'm sorry, the muscle, but you're definitely not gonna see as much growth. Now, along with that, as I said, the second one was like short reps. So what I mean by that is like, you saw my curl. It's up to the top, down. Some people will go like, ah, that's good. Ah, that's good. Like, why? Why are you stopping yourself short? If you can keep going with that range of motion, do it. If you're gonna hurt yourself, obviously don't. Another like really good example of this is like if you're doing like a pec deck or a cable fly or whatever, like a lot of people will go, let's say it's a pec deck, right? We'll get here, they'll put the pins in the machine so they can't go any further than here. And be like, okay. Like, don't get me wrong. You're going to see some growth of that. You are still hitting your chest. Like, yes, you are. But if you get that full stretch, get back here, maybe further if you can, this is for me, my range of motion, and then go up here, you're definitely gonna see a lot more growth. It's just going to, one, you literally just have more time with your tension, you're stretching the muscle more, which is important for muscle growth, and you're just gonna be able to see a lot more progress. And now, form and short reps, those two things are caused a lot of the times by people lifting too heavy. Like one of the biggest things in the gym is to leave your ego at the fucking door. Like no one, unless you're trying to be a strongman or if your goal is to lift heavy, sure, you can lift heavy, but you still have to have good form. But like no one cares that you can lift a lot of weight. Like honestly, in the past year, my weight probably hasn't really changed that dramatically. Like it's definitely gone up for every lift, but not by a crazy amount. Because I've realized that I wasn't crazy ego lifting. Like you probably wouldn't have looked at me being like, it wouldn't have been like that first example I showed you guys where I was like doing this, but I was doing my reps really fast and definitely throwing it a little bit. So I was like, all right, let me slow down, focus on form, lower the weight. Or for a lot of them, what I did was I didn't even lower the weight. I just lowered my reps, perfected my reps, and then continued on from there. Because there's no reason, like especially if you're trying to build muscle, and that is your sole goal, which that is my sole goal, there's no reason for you to be lifting crazy heavy. Like your body doesn't know the difference between, your body can't tell the difference if you're benching 185 or 225. Your body just knows that you were training near to failure and it was difficult. That's all your body knows. Like your chest muscles don't have a mind of their own where they're like, oh, that was lighter than we used. Like, no, it just knows if it was hard or not. That's it. All right, so I just went to go grab my water because it fits perfectly with this next tip. And that's that a lot of people take way too short rest. Obviously, a lot of people drink water during the rest. The way that you should rest, honestly should be somewhere around like, I typically say a minimum of 2 to 3 minutes. So like you want to do 2, some people do 3. That's around where I try and get to. Minimum is probably not the right word. Just somewhere, I'd say a minimum of like 2 minutes rest. I typically, when I can, try and average out around 3 minutes rest. But a lot of it for me is like, I'm not sitting there like with a timer staring at it, like up 258, 259, okay, let's go. Like, no, I'm not doing that. What you're doing more is like trying to figure out when your body's actually recovered. Because your rest probably shouldn't be the same for every muscle group. So for example, like when I hit legs, there is systemic fatigue. Like hitting legs, because it's such a large muscle in your body, like if you hit like a heavy set of squats or leg press, right? Like your entire body is tired. Whereas like when I do, say like tricep pushdowns, like my entire body isn't tired after, my triceps are, that's it. So a lot of times for an exercise like a tricep pushdown, you might only need like 2.5 minutes rest. But I'll tell you, like when I'm doing a leg press, like heavy sets, especially if I'm going for, especially if it's a little higher rep, maybe I'm going like 4 or 5 plates, which that's where I'm at right now post-surgery, for like 8 to 10 reps, like I'm gonna need like probably 4 minutes rest, like genuine, because I'm gonna be catching my breath for the first like 2 minutes. And then my legs are still gonna feel like jello, and I'm like, can I even do this again? But like, I'm gonna need a little bit more rest time because of that. So just being cognizant, like I hate when I see people just do like a minute rest. Like there's no way you're recovered yet. There's no way you feel ready. I forget who I heard say it, but like the best way to figure out when to hit your set is when you think you're ready. Because like there's gonna be a point where, like let's go back to like the legs example, where like your legs are only gonna feel so much better. Your legs aren't gonna feel fresh, like you just hit a set. But like there's definitely a difference between how your legs feel 30 seconds after a set and 3 minutes after a set. So I would definitely try and just use that kind of like method of just like, when do you feel good? Do you feel ready? If you're ready, go for it. And if that only is maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, go for it. But if it's probably not gonna be less than. The next one, and this kind of coincides with that last one of like why you kind of need that longer rest, and it's that people just don't train hard enough. Like it should look like a struggle for you to finish your sets. Like it shouldn't be easy. And I feel like a lot of people just train to a number, which is not what we should be doing. You're not training, there isn't like, you don't magically see no gains at 9 reps and then out of 10, oh my God, like you see all the gains. Like no, like that's not how it works. Studies have shown like the rep ranges are actually pretty broad that you can use for muscle growth. I think on the low end, I could be misremembering, but I think even at like 4 reps, you could see it was somewhere between like 4 and like 25 or 30. And even if I'm wrong on that 4 number, it definitely was a minimum of 6. Where like starting at 6, you could see growth. So with that though, knowing the rep ranges is you have to be like within 1 to 2 reps of failure or reaching failure at whatever your number you're going to. That's why a lot of the times, I honestly couldn't tell you how much I can do. Like I can tell you the weights that I do typically, but rep wise, I either know it's somewhere between 8, 9 to 10 or 6 and 7. Because I usually train like 6 to 10, where like once I hit 10 reps, I'll up the weight and then usually be doing like 6 or 7, wait till I get to like 9 or 10 again, go back down and just keep repeating the cycle. But I just know I'm like, okay, this one's almost ready to go to the next weight, or it's not, I just switch. Like that's literally all I know. And like I definitely could track it, and there are people that do that. I also have a relatively good memory, right? I'm pretty sure I did 8 last time, let's push it a little harder, things like that. Because the goal should try to be always do a little bit more every time. If you did 8 reps last time, let's try and get to 9 today. If you did 10 reps last time, let's try and up the weight and do 6. That should always be the goal. And the last one is, I think this is such a big mistake that people make in the gym, is knowing what your actual goal is. Because a really good example of this is when I first started lifting, this has always been my goal, has always been to just put on a bunch of size. I always wanted to be like big, and still in the process of getting there. But I trained in the way I was pretty much just describing, where get to a certain number of reps, up the weight, go down, and keep doing that. I did that for every exercise except for one. It was bench press. Because all outside of wanting to get really big, I also really wanted to hit 225 so badly. So because of that, I trained bench specifically very differently. With that, I trained much more like a power lifter, where I trained everything in like I think I did 4 to 6. So I would do, all my working sets would be 4 reps. I'd get it up to 5, get it up to 6. Once I hit 6, go back down, up the weight, go back to 4 reps. And I just did that. And I got from, when I first started lifting, I couldn't even bench 135 to being able to do 225. And then now my PR, I think it was like 265 like a year ago. I haven't really checked since. But understanding like your rep ranges are dependent on what your actually goals are. Where like, as I just described, like if you're trying to just get stronger, which like for bench specifically, that was my goal. I then did shorter rep ranges to try and promote strength and just focus on that. Whereas if I'm just trying to put on muscle when I'm doing that, I'm usually training in like the 6 to 10 rep range. And just knowing the difference, because like if you're training for athletics and trying to be a top tier athlete, you're gonna train very different than like a bodybuilder. It's why I'll always remember like LeBron will post videos of him working out and people in the comments will start roasting him. Cause like he was squatting, I don't know if you had this, he was squatting to like here and up and here and up. And like for him and his athletic performance, I don't know why his trainer was specifically doing that, but I do remember seeing him explain it and be like, this, I believe it was for explosiveness in some aspect. And like for LeBron, that makes sense. For me, who's trying to just get really big in the gym, it's gonna be useless. So these are probably the 6 biggest mistakes that I see most people making in the gym. And I will say the 3 most common are easily the form, short reps, and lifting too heavy. Like just making sure that you're lifting with good form. And honestly, whatever the weight is, if you can lift with good form and full range of motion, whatever the weight is okay. You could maybe even go up. And I will put in one little caveat. It is okay to cheat on like your last rep. Like your last rep, I don't think needs to look exactly like your first rep. But it shouldn't look like crazy, like you're doing something like that on bicep curl. If you have to be like, do that slightly, like a normal rep would look like this. And if you have to go like, maybe lean back a little bit, if you have to like cheat slightly, I don't think it's the end of the world. Maybe you pull your elbows forward a little bit for that rep rather than just keeping them strict. Like, I don't think that's the end of the world, but like it shouldn't be crazy dramatic. I hope you now know what you can go change and can figure that out and see more progress in the gym, see more gains. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, send this to someone, and I'll catch you next Sunday at 5 p.m. Get you there.